Hi and welcome back to another video. First one for 2022. It seems very difficult saying that, but I suppose we'll get used to it. I've got an interesting one today, as you can probably see from the thumbnail. I'm going to be making some pomegranate wine and pomegranate brandy. I'm going to do the fermenting in one go because I think the advantages of making the wine is going to enhance the flavour of the brandy. So we'll do it in one go, and then when it's finished, we'll split it in half and separate it both two ways. Just to explain, it's somewhat of a simple recipe, but it looks rather complicated by the way I've actually set it up here. Now, I'm going to be making, I've got 8 litres of 100% pure pomegranate juice here. This is no additives, no extra sugars, no nothing. It's just 100% pure pomegranate juice. So it's 8 litres. By the time I've actually put the dextrose in with this to increase the increase the alcohol content by increasing the sugar content, probably get close to about 10 or 11 litres. We'll see how we go anyway. I don't know how much we're going to use yet. But anyway, so I've got the 8 litres of pomegranate juice. Now I'm going to be throwing that in. Basically that 8 litres comes in at a specific gravity of 1.060, which is roughly 8% ABV. Now, I'm going to be using Mangrove Jack's R56 yeast, which is good up to around about 15% on wines, specifically formulated for fruity wines, so it should be good. Now, I'm going to try and get about 14%. Now, I'm going to be doing specific gravity tests as we go along. When it reaches my target specific gravity, I'm going to put some Camden tablets in. I'm going to stop the fermentation process because I want to retain a little bit of the sweet in here. So anyway, other ingredients I'm throwing in there, I'm going to be putting in sufficient dextrose to do the job. I don't know how much to put in yet, so I came prepared. Toolshed Tommy strikes again. So basically what I'm going to be doing is I've got a specific gravity of roughly 8% ABV now. In this, I'm going to be adding more dextrose, stirring it up, testing it, adding more dextrose, stirring it up and testing it until it reaches round about the 15-16%. So I'll be doing that for you, it'll be basically done between shots, but for me, I'll be doing it as I go and report on the process later on. Other ingredients, diammonium phosphate, yeast nutrient, a couple of teaspoons, flat teaspoons of that. That should be all I need. I usually put a heap teaspoon in a 30-litre barrel. So a couple of flat teaspoons in around about 10 litres should be more than sufficient. So that's also, I've got some citric acid. The recipe here, and I'll put that in the description, the recipe here says to put in 2 teaspoons of acid blend or 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. Well, I'm going to be using citric acid. Rather than throw in what they say in the recipe, what I'm going to do is I'm going to test the pH. If it's too high, I'm going to be reducing it. If it's too low, I'm going to be increasing it. So I've got the ability to do that. So I'm going to bring it into around about 5.5 after I've put all my ingredients in. Right, put all the ingredients in, test the pH and adjust the pH accordingly then. So I've also got 2 cups of very strong tea. It's been sitting there brewing quite a long while, so it's actually very strong tea. That it says to put in the tea for tannin, another ingredient in making a fine wine. So those are the ingredients. So I'm going to start putting it all together now, and as soon as I actually have something to report, basically after mixing the sugar and putting all the other ingredients in, I'll come back. Well, I've got all the ingredients in, done all the stirring, done all the additions. I'll give you a rundown of basically what I did. As you know, I put in the 8 litres of juice. I actually put in 2 cups of tea for the tannin. Now with the sugar, I started off by putting in 1 kilo. Now that bumped it up from 8% to 13% ABV. So I worked it out, and I did it in increments. I ended up doing 500 grams extra to bring it up to 15% potential ABV, or 1.113 specific gravity. Now, I struck a little bit of a problem in assessing the pH level because I wanted to know how much the pH was before I put in the citric acid. Now, the problem I had was very simple. I'm using litmus paper, and it's a very red substance. So that turned that litmus paper immediately red. So I could not read the scale on it. So I decided, well, the recipe called for 2 teaspoons full of citric acid or lemon juice. So I put 2 teaspoons full of citric acid in there as well. Now, the temperature at the moment inside the house here is it's air conditioned, so it's always rather nice and cool. So I'm going to put the thermometer in there to get the temperature. Temperature's going down, 22, 21, 20, about 20 degrees. So I need to bump that temperature up a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out of my air-conditioned house and put it into the unair-conditioned laundry. And it's guaranteed to take off like a freight train. So I'll read the instructions on here. It's actually very interesting, this yeast. It says, noted for exceptional depth and flavour complexity, R56 produces complex aromatics ideal for both new and old world styles. This strain allows varietal, that's a good word, varietal expression and produces complex fruit-forward red wine with good structure and balance. No rehydration is required, simply add to the top, stir and put away. Well, I'm going to get to that stage right now. It's good. So it says I have to wait a little bit of time before coming back and process. It's not a speed yeast by any means, but I'll put that in. Now it says here, where are you? Ingredients, and stir well. For best results, ferment at 18 to 28 degrees, right, so that's going to be fixed. So it's going to be stored for a couple of weeks, then I'll take it away, assess it, I'll rack it off, do a second fermentation, and when it reaches the desired sweetness, I'll actually put the candle tablets in. Now, keep in mind too, as it starts bumping up its alcohol content, I'm going to take half of that away and put it through my little pot still. So right now, where am I? Sorry for going out of frame. Just stir in the yeast here. Come on guys, get together, do your work. It's a nice environment in there. Made it perfectly for you. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Pomegranate. Very unusual fruit, isn't it? And it's, yes, and I know, before they see it in the comments, you're not supposed to cut it like that. I did it like that simply for the display. These, surprisingly enough, cost $4.50 each at Woolworths here in Australia, Queensland, Australia. And they come from the States. I cut one out and I taste the juice, and the juice is quite bitter. I suppose it's something to do with how white the interior section is, but then again, at $4.50 each, my goodness, you don't want to make a mistake too often, do you? So anyway, when in doubt, buy the juice that comes in a bottle, guaranteed. So that's good. My floor is a disaster area here. I have little red spots everywhere because I put this on the ground and I used my power drill to mix it. Oh, thank goodness it's now 24 past 5 and my wife comes home in around about 3 hours. I've got enough time, just enough time to put this to bed, clean up and make it look like it hasn't been touched. Shh, mum's a word. Right, well, to you, it's going to be instantaneous. To me, it's going to be 2, 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks maybe, before I actually do the pot still run. I'm not going to wait until the end of the racking and the settling of the wine. I'll wait until I've got the specific stuff to do a pot still run to make the brandy. And yeah, as I said, to you, that's going to be instantaneous. To me, 2, 3, 4 weeks. So I'll be back. Well, it's now 4 weeks later. I seem to be making a habit of doing these long ones lately. And the project is actually finished. As you can tell from the thumbnail, one of my end projects was not really successful, but I'll fill you in on what happened. Well, when I actually put the mix in to ferment, I actually also put in some pectinase. Now, I forgot to actually tell you about this when I was doing it. I actually had my hand on it twice. Now, the problem with not scripting your conversation is we might leave things out. So I put some pectinase in there. And anybody who does not know what pectinase is, it breaks down the pectins in fruit, releasing juices and flavours and enhancing the yield. That's a regular use with wine. So I put some of that in there as well and waited for it to finish its thing. And then I actually broke it into 2 containers, 2 carboys. And each container, I did one, I wanted to actually make it flat, so there's no sugar at all. So I just waited for it to stop working. So it stopped just a little bit short of 1000. And I put some more sugar in the other one to try and see how fast it would go. And it went to about 1060, about 1060. So it was slightly sweet. But at the end of the day, I tasted the stuff with a bit of extra sugar in. It was very tangy, bitter, and sweet. If it was such a way. It was sweet, you could tell it was sweet, but it was also very tangy and bitter. So I decided I'm not going to actually make that into a wine. I didn't like the flavour, so I decided to distill it instead. So anyway, as you can see behind me here, I ran the 2 bottles, 8 litres through my little pot still. And I ended up with, I ran it through twice. I did 2 stripping runs, and then I did a 3rd run, basically giving my end products. So I ended up with 475 mils of distillate at 66 ABV. Now I added 308 mils of water to bring it to 750 mils at 40 ABV. So 750 mils was my end result. And this is where it is here. Now, I did this about an hour ago, and I've got a wood stay in there. You can actually see it's already starting to actually become discoloured. And anybody who's interested, I was actually very interested to find these. Still Spirits makes these little spiral oak wood stays. It's obviously a result of a lathe. And they're meant to drop into the top of a carboy. And I thought they were fantastic. To me, I might not be doing a full one, so I just break them off in the appropriate place and drop them into a jar or a carboy, whichever you want. And they're American Oak Infusion Carboy Spiral Medium Toast, it's called. The Oak Infusion Spirals, you actually put in 1 spiral per 11 litres. And then just monitor, so really good. Really nice. All right, well, what's left to do right now? I've already been through, done it. I've got it all here, and I'm pleasantly pleased with the outcome of that. It's going to be something well worthwhile having. If I can get this open, it'd be right. Got it. Now, after a couple of hours, this is a couple of hours finished. After a couple of hours finished, you can already see there's a slight bit of wood oak colour in there as well. So it's already starting to work. But I'll give you, I'm not a wine taster or a professional taster, but I can give you my evaluation of whether I think it was worth it or not. I can already taste the oak. It's like a concentrated, the flavour is really intense. It's like a concentrated version of part of the fruit flavour of the juice when it first started. When I actually did it as a wine, it became tangy and bitter. This was tangy without the bitter. Actually, it's very pleasant. It'll be interesting to see how that ages with that little bit of wood in there. It's going to be an interesting project. Well, folks, it's been another long one. 4 weeks to get this up and running. And I'll probably run it a little bit over time, so I'm not over time, I've probably made it a little bit too long, so I might go through and edit out little bits of chit chat that shouldn't be there. But the whole exercise, wine, no, to my liking, wine, no. There's probably a better way of doing it, but to my liking, wine, no. But the brandy, it's got a nice tang to it, it's got a nice bite to it, and it's got a strong flavour to it. So I'll see how it goes after being infused with the oak stays for a while. Well, folks, that's it for this video. It's been a lot of fun. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. I find it always a pleasure to do this type of thing, and hopefully you enjoy it too. Now, if you do, please like, share and subscribe, because that helps me to get more attention from YouTube and maybe get my videos seen in further afield in the country. So yeah, it's been a pleasure. So until next time, cheers.